Rabindranath Tagore. You've probably heard the name, right? But who was he really? A poet? A philosopher? A songwriter? Well, it turns out he was all of those things, and honestly, so much more. Today we're going to unpack the incredible life and legacy of one of history's true geniuses.
And what better way to get into his mindset than with his own words? This quote, it just perfectly captures the kind of person we're about to explore. Someone who saw beauty and meaning in absolutely everything.
All right, I want to start with just one thing. A single year, 1913. So what's the big deal about 1913?
This is the big deal. For the very first time ever, the Nobel Committee gave the prize to someone who wasn't European, and that prize went to Rabindranath Tagore. In one move, a powerful new voice was on the world stage, and millions of people were asking the same question. Who is this man who just broke this huge barrier?
Okay, let's dive right into this because this wasn't just a win, it was a global event. It was like a powerful, lyrical voice from the East just kicked the door down and the West suddenly had no choice but to listen. And it all came down to this one collection, Gitanjali, which translates to song offerings. You have to understand, it was this relatively small book of his translated poems that did it. The Swedish Academy was just captivated, calling it profoundly sensitive, fresh, and beautiful. For most of the world, this was the first real taste of his genius.
But here's the thing, the Nobel Prize, that's just one chapter in an incredible story. To really get who this man was, we've got to rewind a bit and just look at the sheer range of the guy.
So when you look at his early years, one thing becomes crystal clear. His genius wasn't forged in some stuffy classroom. He was born right into this incredible cultural boom, the Bengal Renaissance, and was already writing poetry at 8 years old. I mean, can you imagine? Get this, he was sent to England to become a lawyer and basically said, nah, I'm gonna go study Shakespeare instead. That tells you everything about his unstoppable curiosity.
We call him a poet, but that title, it barely scratches the surface. Seriously, he was a novelist, a playwright, an essayist, a composer, a painter, a philosopher, a social reformer, an educationist. And the crazy part is, he wasn't just dabbling. He was a master at pretty much all of it. And if you want to get a sense of just how prolific he was, just look at this number. That's how many songs he composed. Over 2,000. This body of work is so iconic, it became its own genre, Rabindra Sangeet, and it's basically the soundtrack to Bengali culture.
But here's where the story gets even more interesting. For Tagore, art was never just art for art's sake. No way. Everything he created was deeply tied to his powerful personal and political beliefs. Take education, for instance. He absolutely despised formal rote schooling. In fact, his entire college career lasted exactly one day. He believed the whole point of teaching was to spark curiosity, not just explain things. So what did he do? He went and built his own university, Visva-Bharathi, where the whole idea was learning out in nature and fostering true intellectual freedom. And that independent thinking, it didn't stop there. Even though he was a huge advocate for India's independence from the British, he was also a fierce critic of aggressive nationalism. He saw it as a great menace, arguing for a kind of universal humanism over blind patriotism.
And believe me, his principles weren't just talk. After the horrific Jallianwala Bagh massacre in 1919, the British awarded him a knighthood, and he gave it back. This quote is from the powerful letter he wrote renouncing the title. He chose to stand with his people rather than accept an honor from their oppressors.
So what's the legacy of this myriad-minded man? Well, his influence didn't end with his death in 1941. Not even close. It is quite literally woven into the very fabric of modern South Asia.
I mean, just think about this. How many artists can say they wrote the national anthem for one country? Tagore composed the anthems for two, India's Jana Gana Mana and Bangladesh's Amar Shonar Bangla. His work even inspires Sri Lanka's anthem. He is the only person in the world with that distinction. That's just incredible.
And remember that revolutionary school he founded? It's still there. Visva-Bharati University continues to be a world center for the study of humanity, carrying on his mission of open, global education right to this day.
So from poet and painter to composer and philosopher, Tagore's life was just an absolute study in creative power. And his story leaves us with this one profound question. How can a single artist's voice become so powerful that it actually helps define the very identity of nations?